Welcome to the Cross the Line Podcast. My name is Carlos Smith, and today's episode is sponsored by KB's Car Care on 321 North Main Street in Jonesville, South Carolina. They offer hand car wash, vacuum, clean interior, and full detail. While you're waiting on your vehicle, custom seating is available as well as a dining area. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., so make sure you stop by. Today's episode is also sponsored by Big Ben's Dessert. If you need to satisfy your sweet tooth, this is the place for you. They have a wide variety of desserts including cakes, ice cream, banana pudding, and my personal favorite, the Oreo cheesecake. They open Tuesday to Saturday from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. and Sunday from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. Closed on Mondays. So stop by and visit Big Ben's Dessert on 297 Spartanburg Highway in Lyman, South Carolina, where nothing could be sweeter. So thank you guys for sponsoring this episode of the Cross the Line Podcast. This is our self-investment tour. We are still here in Vegas right now. We have another special guest with us today. He's the owner of BeatsXBeers.
Beats and Beers.
I don't know why I want to say Beats.
No, everybody like say that, because of the X, but
Beats
it's all
and Beers.
good.
Mr. Brandon Carter, how are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. I appreciate you for taking the time to come sit with us. Like
Yeah,
I was
man.
telling you before we started this interview, like how everything came about. I sat down and made a list of places we wanted to go to and travel to on our self-investment tour. So with no major sponsorships, we had some local sponsors help us out to get to where we're trying to go to. We sat down, wrote down a list of places. I know I was telling you about Marty. Shout out to Marty. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, shout out to Marty.
We interviewed her other client, Miss Camille Masunda, owner of Ebony Wine and Spirits.
Yeah.
So when I was on the phone with Marty, she was like, I got another client that's out in Vegas. You'd be more than happy to talk to him. And I was like, you know what, it's crazy because I sat down, and this was probably maybe like 2 days before I had a conversation with Marty. I was like, it's crazy. I just sat down and I made a list of places that we wanted to travel to, that we never been to and to go to for our interviews. And I'm just a firm believer, like the way I process things, I always write things down now. For me, it's just a power of just writing things down.
Yeah, man, it's powerful.
Yeah, so I wrote it down, and Marty was like, I got Brandon out here in Vegas. I was like, you know what? I didn't know when we were gonna come, but I just knew we was gonna try to make a way out here. And then I think we started the tour back in June, and finally made it out here in October. So I'm glad we are able to make it happen. But thank you for joining us today.
Man, appreciate y'all having me.
Man, absolutely, I'm looking forward to this conversation. So for people start watching this interview, who is Brandon Carter?
Man, I feel like that's a very open-ended question, but a creative, a lover, definitely just passionate about the community, passionate about where I come from, passionate about offering good to the world, and a firm believer of if you put good in, you will receive that same energy back. So, man, I'm passionate about music. Mm-hmm. So everything I do is centered around music. Some may know me as starting out as a music producer, which obviously I developed over time into a whole entire brand. But yeah, man, just overall, even that can't really define me. It's a piece of me, but it doesn't define me. Just an overall creative, man. I just love creating. And, man, I always tell people, like, man, if I couldn't create, I don't know what I would do. Like, I would rather not be here if I couldn't create. Like, that's how serious, like, creating is to me in my creativity. So
Absolutely. Now, we'll go back a little bit. You say you were from Flint, Michigan.
From Flint.
How was life growing up in Flint, Michigan?
Man, believe it or not, because Flint gets such a bad rap, man, I wouldn't choose to be from anywhere else, man. It was, man, growing up in Flint was, can we cuss?
Yeah, go ahead. Speak your mind.
Yeah, growing up in Flint was the shit.
Yeah.
Just period. It was, you know what I'm saying, back when we was growing up, it was, it was alive and well, like it was very community based. It was a small city, but I can say growing up, I didn't necessarily feel that, or maybe that's because it's all I knew at the time. Mm-hmm. It was very people were very passionate about the city, especially everybody passionate about the high schools they went to. the side of towns they stay on. And man, growing up in Flint, man, it taught me a lot, man. It taught me, the hustle, the grind, all of that. Cause in Flint, I mean, we don't got, I mean, the industry don't exist, you know what I'm saying, in Flint. Hardly nothing, creative wise or arts wise. Like, it's not the place for that. Flint is pretty much where GM started. So it's known for factories and all that type of stuff. So everybody there is pretty much like, that was the thing. Like our grandparents and stuff like that. Like it wasn't no, no college. It was like everybody, if you worked at GM, that was like you made it, you know what I'm saying, type of thing. And so that thing just kind of passed on and passed on. So when you try to do something that's like creative or musically or whatever, people looking at you like, what? Because they never really saw it. You know what I'm saying? They never saw nobody make it successfully and live a life off of that. So,
and now that you said that, we were talking about it earlier. Same thing for us in South Carolina. In South Carolina, we're in the upstate of South Carolina, and where we are, BMW and Michelin is like the I guess like the best plant, some of the highest paying plants in the upstate. So you get there, a lot of people say, man, they gonna get there and just stay there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with entrepreneurship. Is not for everybody, but a lot of people, get content with working those jobs.
100%.
And when you do something out of the norm, it's kind of like they look at you kind of crazy to a sense. But when you mention Flint, I really didn't hear too much about. I remember when we were in school, I thought about this the other day. It was a book that we read when I might have been in like second grade or third one or something like that. But it was a book called Bud Not Buddy, and they were based in Flint. And then I remember after that, just some years ago, when y'all had the issue with the water. And,
the water.
Yeah, that's when I finally heard about Flint again. Then, but how are things now anyway? Is that situation still kind of?
I mean, it still exists. Like, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, I personally feel like, man, we'll never know what's kind of going on, or, it's just like for all these years, it kind of been like spoon fed, just like different information. At this point, you don't really know what to believe. So I do feel in the city there's kind of a distrust, in terms of like the residents and the people of the city versus like, trusting like the government, officials, because
how they go. Yeah.
So it's like, and that's just like an ongoing thing with other, whatever issues there is now, it's like, we don't trust y'all. Yes. And, there's no, definite, answers or whatever. Hopefully, soon the issue get resolved, but man, I get asked that everywhere. Because
I remember it was in the news for a while, and all of a sudden, when they don't make it like the headline, it'll make you feel like, okay, the situation is over with. But a lot of times, this stuff is still going on, but they don't bring attention to it.
Yeah, man, it still exists, and I feel like, for a while, it was, like you said, in headlines, there was a bunch of celebrities coming in town and stuff like that, but it's just, I don't know, it just died down. How most things do. After a while, it died down. Like, at first, it was a good headline. Now it's like
on to the next.
Yeah. And, the people in the city left to kind of sort through it and figure that out. But, yeah, hopefully it gets resolved. I mean, on the flip side of that, a lot of other things are moving forward in the city. So, hopefully that is as well.
So growing up in Flint for you, like, what kind of things were kind of grabbed your attention? I know you say you're a creative and music and everything. Like, what were some of the things that kind of like that you gravitated towards growing up?
Man, music was my thing, and I remember like it used to be a point where I didn't know what a music producer was. I just knew I always wanted to be involved in music some type of way. I was always infatuated with like watching videos, watching award shows was like a real thing to me, and I didn't realize it at the time, but as I grew older, I was like, dang, like I was really into this, then like that stuff really excited me. So I remember like it wasn't until I was probably like 7th grade. Before that, I remember doing a project in elementary, and I wanted to design shoes. Like, I wanted to just draw and design shoes. I didn't even know if that was a real job, technically, in terms of, like, how you even, go after something like that. But I used to just draw shoes all the time. But that was just me expressing, like, creativity at the time. Yeah. And then I remember getting to, like, the 7th grade. Still my best friend to this day. First person I met in middle school. And he was, like, taking up, like, guitar lessons or something at the time. And I'm like, man, I'm finna get this beat machine for Christmas. And we was like, man, we about to start a band at the time. We didn't know what we was talking about and nothing like that. He didn't want to let nobody know that he was, like, learning guitar because that was something that wasn't even cool at the time. Like, it was like, I looked at, I'm like, guitar? Like, we don't be doing that. Yeah. So we kind of start forming our own thing, like, and so every Christmas I would try to get like a new little piece of something, to go along with that, follow with keyboard and all of that, and kind of just start diving into it, man. I remember 9th grade, we call ourselves starting our own record label or whatever in 9th grade, and looking back on it, like, it was like we was ahead of our time at the time, because nobody was thinking of, like, starting a record label, like gathering all these people for this one specific purpose. Like, we was actually going to the studio and all of this, and we like just so young. But man, that was my thing back then. I didn't play any sports like a lot of my friends did, but it was just something that just didn't interest me. Right. But the only thing I would really, really get lost in time with was music. And I remember hiding that for a while, like from my parents, from everybody, pretty much, because it was a thing where I felt like it wasn't going to be accepted as a real thing. It was more like a hobby, a hobby to them. But I'm like, nah, like, I really want to do this. And I always say, like, damn, like, I wish I would have, out of high school just went on to like an engineering school, producing, or whatever, and just took that on instead of going to traditional college where I felt like I wasted a bunch of time and money at.
We just had that. We had that conversation in our recent interview. We were just talking about the same stuff about going the traditional route, doing things instead of like you saying, being a creative and doing what you truly want to do. What would you say? Do you think that your parents kind of like wanted you to do? Growing up, like, did you feel like they had a certain path they wanted you to choose?
Well, so my older brother, he's 5 years older than me. So he graduated high school, did the traditional thing. He went to college. My mom, she did the same. They both got, master's degrees. So it was expected of me to kind of follow in those same footsteps. And it was like, that's just what my whole family like expected me to do. And so I felt the pressure getting out of high school. I felt obligated to doing that. So that's what I did. I didn't even know what I would do if I even obtained the degree because I didn't necessarily want to do this. I'm just doing it. Of course, we go and I'm like, okay, I major in business management, and just at least I can get some type of business skills or knowledge from that. But it's still like, I'm not doing this for me, really. I'm doing this for my mom and for my family. And because I don't want to be looked at as like a failure or as like, oh, I'm not doing nothing, then I just, did that. And that like occupied everybody else's mind for the time. Like, oh, he in school. That gave them something to say to everybody else. Like, what he doing now? He in school. And, so I did that for a while, and that ran its course, man. I ended up hopping from school to school to school to school to school, just hopping around. Yeah. Man, I was using, the one thing I can say, man, I was using them refund checks, though, to go buy.
Leave it up. Yeah. We balling.
Yeah. I was buying, but see, I will also, because it got to an age, when I got to, like, college age, and I started moving into, like, the real professional, like, equipment and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't my mom would buy that for me for Christmas, because it got to the point where that was too expensive at that point. So I would use them refund checks, and I'm like, man, I'm finna go get this keyboard. Man, I remember, I bought my first keyboard on eBay, and this was before like PayPal was really like popular as it is, and it was all the protection around buying stuff on eBay. Man, it was like $1,000, and I didn't sent the money off in I think it was a money order. Sent it off, ain't never get nothing. Never get nothing. And that was like my first like professional keyboard. But I took the next semester, man, I took that as an L, went to the actual store this time and bought a keyboard. Man, but yeah.
I was gonna say, man, when you talk about those refund checks, they took me down memory lane, because that was my first time. Like, I never really had that much. It was maybe like, for me, I only got maybe about $2,500, $3,000.
Yeah,
that's the most money I ever seen.
At one time, that's how much money. That was the most money I had in my possession.
Yeah. At
one time, so that was like.
And man, I remember buying not knowing, bought a little necklace from the mall, maybe like $250. Then I went back, I saw Gucci having like, I remember when the Lemonade song came out, he having a yellow chain, so I went and bought like a little yellow necklace, another $250. Yeah. We go to the club. We ain't waiting in line. Skip line. Yeah. We gotta pay $40. Come on. Skip line $40. Come on. We just throwing away money.
Yeah, I was doing dumb stuff too, man. I had a 2 phones. Like, I was just doing just dumb stuff like at the time. But yeah, like you said, bro, at that particular time, I never thought about it until you just said that. Like, I hadn't had that much money at one time before, so it was like, man, that refund hit, man, you was ready.
And the thing is, like, now I tell people, like, it's a loan for a reason, but for me, I was like, man, that's down the line, man. I got 4 years in college. I'm gonna be able to pay this back later on, so I'm not even thinking about it. Like, you really got this money got to be paid back, plus interest and all this stuff. And man, it just throwing away that money, man. And then for me, I had enough money to cover stuff, but I was like, let me get a little bit more so I can have something to spend on the side. And so just borrowing all that money, man, and just now I look at it like, I mean, I'm thankful. My parents, I always say I'm thankful for what my parents did for me and my brother and my sister. We all went to college and we got our degrees. Because my parents, they weren't fortunate enough to go to college, so they made sure we went. But now I still feel like, okay, I got my degree, but was it really worth it? Sometimes I feel.
Let me ask, what's your degree in?
My major was information management. I had a minor in biz. I changed my minor from business. I went to information mass media because I had a business minor.
Yeah, well,
I didn't like it.
Moving in the field.
Yeah, and then so my senior year, I changed my minor to mass media, so I started doing the broadcasting. So that's when I started covering because we're like a little bit over an hour away from the Charlotte. So I covered the Panthers, Hornets, NASCAR. I covered softball. I got connected with a guy down in Atlanta named Marcus Burnett, who owns a black-owned company called SUV TV. So he covers sports, covers softball through them, and they take me to different places with them as well. So that's when once I started covering those games, and, being in the presence of athletes and getting a chance to, pick their brains, it was crazy because you see these guys on TV, but when you actually in front of them for the first time, you're like, dang, man. Like, I seen Melo when he was with the Knicks. I was like, dang, I'm up close and personal, like right here with Melo in the locker room with him. I saw Dirk, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. This was the season when LeBron first went back to Cleveland. So when Cleveland came, LeBron was out because he was hurt at the time. I think it was like his back or something. But Kyrie was there. They still had Deion Waiters at the time. But I just remember just seeing all of these guys like up close and personal. So once I got the feel for that, and then Coach Cox would just throw me a headset and a microphone and have me talking. So like, okay. Now I kind of feel like I got a feel for what I wanted to do, but even after I graduated, still had to kind of create my own opportunity because, you hear lack of experience and all that type of stuff. So it still kind of forced me to kind of create my own. So it kind of led to this. I ended up getting one job that was part-time. I don't even want to make this about me, just having a conversation though. But I remember one job that I had. It was a part-time job at the radio station in Greenville. And I shared this a few weeks ago on Facebook. It was like I would drive an hour to work every day for $10 an hour. And by the time I got paid, for the most part, I either broke even or I was in the hole because I was driving to work $10 an hour. $10 an hour for for an hour worth of drive an hour to work for $10 an hour. So it was just like at the time I was like, man, this ain't even really working. But when I look back at it now, it's like, man, it helped me with all the editing, like the audio and the visual stuff, everything that you see. That's what it took me. That's what I learned from it. So I was telling people, like, it's a blessing and a lesson in everything that you do. Don't just look at it for what it is. Just look at it for like the potential of what it could be, because it can lead to more.
It's this tweet. I think Charlotte. I repost it all the time, but it was a couple years ago. Charlemagne had made it. And it was to the extent, I don't know remember the exact words, but it was basically saying most people don't recognize the opportunity unless it's a paycheck attached to it.
Yep.
Which is very true, man. Sometimes it ain't about the money. Well, a lot of times it ain't about the money, man. It's about the experience, man. And getting that experience can get you to where you're trying to get to. And a lot of people don't look at the long run. They look at like their current situation, where they're thinking about currently, like, man, I got to do this, so I got to make this. But in the long run, man, that could pay off and get you paid what you're thinking about plus way more.
Yeah, man, because I tell anybody, man, when I was driving like that, I was in the hole. And when I was driving to Charlotte, covering games and stuff, I ain't really have, like, all the money, but I was just like, man, it was just something I enjoyed doing, man, getting a chance to be in front of those athletes. I even had another intern. I had two separate internships. One of them was a guy named Mr. Gene Brown. God rest his soul, he passed away. This guy had never met me before, and he came to my job. His wife came to my job, and I saw she had a Panther sticker on the back of her car. And I was just like, you work for the Panthers? She said, no, my husband does, but he's getting ready to retire. He's been head of security. So we exchanged information. She came back. She said, when you call, tell them you spoke with Gene Brown. So I gave him a call, and right after that, Panthers brought me up for an interview. This was for a guest relations position at the stadium. As soon as I told them I knew Gene Brown, no other questions. They're like, we love what Mr. Brown is doing, and they walked me right through the door just like that. And even that job, they paid me like $9 an hour, so I was still driving to Charlotte for $9 an hour. I mean, it was, for me, what I was doing at the time, like I still wasn't making a lot of money, but it was just another opportunity. And I still learned so much through that.
How did like your parents and stuff like that feel about it? Did they feel like you were wasting like your time, or did they see the opportunity in it all?
Well, the sports part, they didn't say too much about it. They understood. They were trying to like be more supportive, because I was still in college at that time. Okay. So they were cool with it because they know it was an internship. So I was still trying to still learn and get my feet wet or whatever. But after that, it was kind of more of like, after you graduate, okay, you got bills, you got kids, like, how you gonna take care of all your circumstances right now? Like, it's time to like get serious about what you're doing. And then it's like, sometimes for me, I would kind of question myself sometimes, like, dang, am I doing the right thing? I'm investing all this time into what I'm doing, what I love doing. But it's like, man, you still got responsibilities to take care of. And then sometimes you look around, you see your friends getting homes, they're married and stuff. So you feel that pressure of all this stuff. So it's like, dang, man, like, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing? But, man, it's just one of those things. Well, I think my parents kind of, like, my book came out back in March. I wrote my very first book. It's called F School, Life is Your Best Teacher. And it's been running on the screen.
Hey, man, I need a copy of this book.
I got you. And so on the cover of it, it's a picture of me and my son, and he's holding my degree. So when you look at it, you're like, why is he saying F School, but he went to college? But when you read it, you'll understand. But to me, I feel like once my parents came to my book signing and they saw me speak about my dreams and my vision and things that I went through to set up a lot of these interviews, I felt like that was the time where they finally understood, okay, now he's doing something he really enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
And that was like the first time. But before then, it was kind of like, okay, you're getting older, your kids getting older, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to try to, like, get a real... Well, I have a job still, but I still do this. Like, I'm more invested into this,
Yeah.
But it's just like, what are you going to do? Your friends get married, they buying homes, they having kids, having families. Like, what are you going to do? And it's just like, I don't want to feel like I'm trying to live up to everybody else's expectations. I want to run my own race. But I think that was the time when they saw me in my book signing, was kind of like, okay, now I understand. Like, I'm going to let him, I'm going to support him, get behind him. and let him do what he do. And I'm still figuring things out. I'm not perfect at all.
Yeah.
But it's like, even like this tour, man, it took a lot to, make all this stuff happen.
Hey, man, I understand 100%. I'm sure we'll get a lot more into it. But, yeah, man, I identify with that a lot, man. Like, I mean, I started out doing music, with a lot of my friends and stuff like that. Same thing you said, like, a lot of them. The matter of fact, the best friend that I was telling you about that I started with, like he was into sports, so he went to school, scholarshiped up, and all of that, and we were still doing music. But I would be at home, doing music. He off, doing the hoop thing. So of course, like music not at the forefront, for him as much as it is for me or whatever. And I witnessed the same thing. I witnessed my friends graduate from college. Like they got real like careers going on, and I'm just out here still trying to like figure it out. And of course, like my mom and everybody else looking at it like, okay, now it's about that time. Everybody else you done graduated with from high school, moving on to that other part of life, buying houses and everything, like you said. And I'm just like out here, man. I moved to New York. One point, I used one of them refund checks. I moved to New York. I moved all my classes online, so I could be in New York and still be in school. But it didn't work out. The school part didn't work out because it was like, man, I'm in New York. There's so much going on. Like, I ain't got time to be doing this work. I'm like, anything that come up pertaining to music, I was always there. Like, that was always going to come first. And I felt like I had to make the most of that particular opportunity. Like, I got to do everything while I'm here. So, man, it's just crazy. The many things you go through, especially when you passionate about something and you not just doing it just because it's a paycheck attached to it or it's work. Yep. So yeah, man, it's crazy.
You gotta love it, but I think you always want that support from like your family, to get behind you.
Man.
But at the same time, we all gotta understand that they don't have our vision. Like for the most part, our parents. Well, I can't speak for everybody's parents, but my parents, I don't think it was kind of like they were just taught to survive. Like, I don't think I saw them do was just get up and go to work. And they made sure we had everything that we needed to be okay, like food, clothes, everything like that. But it wasn't to the extent of, like creating their own opportunities, like entrepreneurship. Like, I wasn't really, the only person I ever really kind of saw doing that was my uncle. He had his own lawn care business. He had a full-time job, but then he did that on the side. But sometimes on weekends, he would let us come with him, grab a weed eater, make weed eat around different businesses and properties he would go to, help make us a little side money as well. But that was kind of like the only time that I really experienced entrepreneurship was when I saw my uncle doing it. My parents, they didn't do that. They didn't have that opportunity to.
Yeah.
Did you come up with in your childhood growing up? Were you ever exposed to entrepreneurship?
Not at all. Yeah. And I'm probably. Man, not at all. I'm the first one that I know, especially like out of my family, that's chosen an entrepreneurship path. Everybody else kind of had like traditional jobs, traditional careers. So it was a completely new thing. Like, I wasn't raised around entrepreneurs, so I was just knew I had to figure this out on my own. However, I always knew it was something that I wanted to do. Like you said, my mom, she made sure we had, what we needed. And, yeah, it wasn't about, creating those additional opportunities and all of that. It wasn't about that, at all. So, for me, man, I always just wanted more, man. I wanted something different. Right. And I'm looking at, man, because I watched TV, watched all these people on TV that I'm looking up to, whether it was like a Diddy or I say I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. So, like, looking at these people, and it's like, man, it's like something else, like, is there. Like, they figured out that it's more to, it's more to life. And that was part of my reasoning, too, for, like, moving to New York was like, okay, if the business doesn't exist, where do I need to go to actually learn about the actual business? Like, I need to be in the midst of what's going on and people that's doing this regularly. So yeah, but I didn't have anybody around me. Even when I said that I was moving to New York, everybody was like, well, I guess like nobody. I never knew nobody else. I ain't had no other family in New York or nothing like that. Like I just went.
You just kind of felt like that's where you needed to be.
That's where I needed to be. Like I was willing to do any and everything I could to be next to this business that I'm passionate about. You know what I'm saying? Be next, be around the people that's actually doing it, because that was the only way I was gonna figure it out. I ain't had nobody around me, no music mentors, no people business wise, none of that. So I was willing to do any and everything, and I moved out there and I moved in with somebody I barely even knew, you know what I'm saying, at all. Like so it was just something that I was just passionate about, and I just believed and had faith, you know what I'm saying? Like
have faith. Gotta have faith as an entrepreneur.
Man, that's the only thing you got to lean on. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times. And one of the best things happened to me though while I was out there, and I didn't understand it at the time. But man, I started. It was this radio station because I had this manager out there at the time too, and he used to take me to this radio station. So I built a relationship like with the radio station or whatever, and I would go up there. Every time they would be like interviewing guests or whatever, he was like, "When I tell you when somebody coming up here, you can come up here and play some beats for them or whatever." So I would do that all the time. But a while after that, maybe like a year or so, I had moved back to Michigan or whatever, and I ended up getting a call from the person who was over the radio station, and he was like, "Man, it's this contest coming up I'm working on with Vibe magazine and McDonald's." And I'm like, man, I really don't want to do no contest. But he was like, nah, trust me, like at least if you don't win, you get the publicity from it. So I'm like, all right, cool. So we do this, me and my partner, we do this contest or whatever, and the ending prize was y'all get to we'll fly y'all to Atlanta and you get to do a song with Big Crit or whatever. So we breezed.
Dope too.
Yeah, we breezed through the contest. The contest was 3 rounds. Crit was like after the second round, he was like, "I don't even care about the third round. I just want them. Like I want to work with them." And so we had to act like the contest was still going on and all of that because they still had the other contestants and all of that. But by the time the contest was over, they had already flew us to Atlanta. We had already did the song with Crit and all of that. But saying that to say, if I didn't make that move to New York, like that opportunity would have never happened, because I would have never even met him or even had the relationship, you know what I'm saying, to make that happen. So later on I ended up understanding, you know what I'm saying, the purpose and stuff I was getting out of New York.
See, that's why I love these stories, man, because it just shows you like the faith, and like you're not gonna see everything like how it's supposed to play out. It's not for you to see. You just got to understand. You just have to be willing to take that first step.
Man, you got to trust the vision. You got to trust the vision. I mean, entrepreneurship, man, it's so up and down. It's like one day, man, you can make a fortune. The next day or the next week, you ain't make nothing, or you in the hole. You know what I'm saying? And you through it all. Either way, you still got to keep. You know what I'm saying? Keep the faith. You got to keep going, and you still got to take those steps. Like
you got to take those steps.
And when you down, man, that's probably the times when you should probably be working the hardest.
I remember one of my favorite people. I talk about him all the time in my interviews, and Ben Hall. He was the guy that changed everything for me. And he was like, man, when you're an entrepreneur, he's like, that's almost the closest you can get to God, because you got to have that faith. He's like, even when you don't see things, man, it was like, you just got to trust that he going to do his part. And he always do, man. He's like, he going to pull you through. He's like, you're going to have those days where it might be tough, but when you have that faith that everything going to pay off, like, you just got to keep on going.
Man, I truly believe that. I'm going to make sure I post that later on. But entrepreneurship is definitely probably the closest you can get to God, for real.
I remember it was probably about 2 years ago, and I had her back on earlier this year. There's a lady named Sulandi Hammond. She stayed in King Street, South Carolina, and I told this at my book signing as well. It was one day, the first time we were going down, we drove 3 hours to go interview her, and I probably had about maybe $150 in my account. Driving down, I filled my tank up, and I had next thing you know, I had a little notification come to my phone saying, "Man, your phone bill, you need to pay your phone bill now, whatever." You know, I'm the type.
All that stuff hit you at the
wrong
worst
time. Yeah.
Like, God,
so
man.
I'm like, man, I got to pay my phone bill. So I went ahead, paid my phone bill. I had maybe like $50 in my account. We had to try to get something to eat and everything. So my cameraman, like, he don't even know the stuff that's going on. I'm like, hey man, we just got to go here. And for me, like, I hold a lot of stuff in. And so I don't really tell them what's going on. I'm just, I'm just grinding, doing what I'm supposed to do and just trusting the vision. And I'm like, man, I'm down to like my last $40, $50. Like, man, what am I going to do? So, man, I'm feeling down. And, it's always like that. You trying to trying to hang on to your last few dollars to your next payday.
Yeah.
And we get down there, man, like, I don't know what's going to happen. We shot the interview, and she just admired the fact that we drove 3 hours to come sit down and talk to her. We spoke for maybe like, it was over an hour. And she put us on her Facebook Live and everything. So we wrap up the interview, heading back up the road. She shoot me a text. She said, "Hey, shoot me your Cash App. I would just want to support y'all. I love what y'all doing." Not knowing what she was gonna send or whatever. It ain't. And I said, "It's not even about the money. It's what she told me when she sent it. She cashed up $100, and she sent a message that said, 'I believe in you.'" For somebody that never even seen me before in her life to tell me that she believed in me, man, that meant the world to me. Like, cause I'm like down to my last few dollars, like hoping and praying, man. Like, don't nothing happen, cause if we get a flat tire, we need to get somebody to come pick us up. Like, I don't have nothing left in my bank account, and for this lady to send that money and say, "I believe in you," man, it was like a game changer. So I was like, man, that's nothing but God, man, and faith. And because I was like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I just kept on taking those steps. And next thing you know, it's like these moments, man.
Yeah, boy,
like,
that $100 at that moment felt like $1 million.
Everything.
Yeah, it felt like $1 million.
I was down to my last.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, it was so many days. Like, I never even tell people, like, my camera guys, like, I never even tell them, like, what's in my bank account or, like, I'm down to my last. I'm just like, man, I'm just happy that they trusted me to, guide them on the right path, and they follow me and believing in me. So I'm just happy for that. So I don't even tell them, like, man, I put my last few dollars in the tank, and next thing you know, I got a phone bill due, and I'm like, what else we gonna have after this? Like, right. I'm just going. And this was like 2 years ago when that happened. Yeah. It's just like, man, but I was like, man, that's why as an entrepreneur, you gotta have faith, man, because you're gonna have those days, man, where you don't know. But and for me, I always felt like it's those times, and I'm not gonna even say I'm perfect. Now, like, sometimes I have moments where I'm like, dang, man, am I really doing what I should be doing? But then it's even things where people will reach out to me and say, hey, man, you're inspiring me to do what I want to do, man, to pursue my dreams, and they're like, keep doing what you're doing. So stuff like that is like, man, that's what keeps me going. So I always appreciate those moments like that. But I want to ask you, like, so with the crit opportunity, what record did y'all end up
it was this record that McDonald's and Vibe, they ended up just releasing it, but it's called "What You Know About That." Okay. No, it's called what's the name of this song? It's called no, I'm tripping. It's not that. Hold on, I'm finna tell you in a second.
But that was kind of like the first, like, felt like maybe like that was like the first breakthrough, like a big artist that first opportunity.
It is called "What You Know About It." Yeah, it's called "What You Know About It." Okay. No, that wasn't the first one, right? So before the crit thing, before New York, all of that, right? I'm you know what I'm saying, at this point, I'm just making beats for like my friends and people that's around me at the time, whoever I could get on these beats. And so I ended up, like, I started venturing out. This was probably like when Twitter first started, like, becoming a thing. People started being on there. So I started finding ways to reach these other artists, like, out of town or whatever. And so at the time, I had somebody that was kind of managing me. He was in upstate New York or whatever. And he was like, man, he called me one day and he was like, man, currency on one of your beats. And I'm like, man, yeah, right. So I was just like, whatever. And then, man, I remember it all happened so fast. He called me one day, then the next day the song dropped. Like it all just happened like so fast, and it was like so fast to the point where it was like an adrenaline rush, and I had a headache, like because I was that excited about it, and that was like the first time that I was like, man, like it's possible for my music to reach, you know what I'm saying, the masses or whatever the case was. So that was like the first, you know what I'm saying, initial thing. Then I went on to produce a lot of stuff for just like they whole like crew, just kind of overall or whatever. But that was like the initial thing.
Man, that's big, man. See, we almost 40 minutes in already, and I haven't even asked you about the business.
I know
it's crazy.
I know.
Sharing these stories, man. I just love having these conversations. But I was gonna get to it now. Like, so how did the Beats and Beers concept actually come about?
So fast forward. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the beats comes from me being a producer or making beats. But what we used to do in the studio, we used to drink beers and make beats. So I was like, man, let's make an album called Beats and Beers, right? We'll produce the whole thing, and then we'll just feature other artists on there, because I was big on that, because me personally, I would hate making a bunch of beats and then just sending them out, hoping somebody get on them. So I'm like, man, I started creating my own projects where I put people on them, on these beats, and kind of guided how I wanted them to be used. So we made this album called Beats and Beers. However, the name always sounded like something more to me. It always sounded like it could be like a festival or something else. And then, man, it was kind of at a time where I feel like the internet was making it so producers was selling beats for like super, super low. I'm like, man, I don't know how I'm making a career off of this. And they on YouTube just downloading beats and everything. Like, so I wanted to build my own brand. And so in 2015, we started Beats and Beers Festival, which at South by Southwest in 2015. Yeah. So what happened is it kind of grew from there. So we went back the next year and did Beats and Beers Festival. However, at this time, we developing this audience that's kind of migrated from kind of everywhere. Everybody come to South by Southwest. So we had email contacts with all of these people that like RSVP, which was like 20,000 people or something like that. And yeah, so over time, we developed this massive list of people, but they kind of live like all these other places. So that gave us the opportunity to build up audiences in all these different spaces or places, so we could do other shows throughout the year and travel other places as well.
So that's big.
Yeah, so we went, you know what I'm saying, from Austin, Texas. We later on I moved to LA too. So for the same reasons I moved to New York, I'm pursuing the business. And so started doing some stuff out in LA, different shows, and then like, man, we just started traveling everywhere. Same thing, man, it's very similar. Same thing you saying about doing the tour. I was like, hey, we finna do Beats and Beers tour. No sponsors, no none of that, no nothing. I remember going to DC. Same thing you talking about, bro. I didn't have, and I remember I was supposed to get like some payments from some artists or something before I went. Payments never came, or none of that. But I still had to go to DC. Like, it was to the point where I was basically the only one from our team that had went out there to this particular show. This one show was only me. And I'm like, because we got to see this show through or whatever. So, went out there, bro. I had enough money to pay for one night of a motel. One night. And I didn't even know what I was going to do the rest of the night while I was there. I was just like, man, please let something come through. Man, I get on Facebook and it's a message from this dude I know that was like, we not even that cool like that. We just, you know, like I know him, but we not even like cool. We wouldn't hang or none of that. But it was a message from him saying, like, man, you out here in DC, you know, I live out here or whatever. And I'm just like, Yeah, man, I'm at, I told him where I was at. He was like, man, why you hit me up, man? You can come stay with me. I'm like, hell yeah. Now, any other time, I would have been like, man, I'm straight. Like, well, I don't even really know you. Right. I don't know what your situation is. But at the time, I'm like, shit, yes. Yeah. Like, I'm over there. I ain't even got no other choice right now. And he like, man, I come pick you up and everything. I'm like, hell yeah, because I don't even got no more money for no damn Uber or nothing. So he like, I come pick you up. And so he came and picked me up. And man, it turned out to be one of the best trips, honestly. Like, it was Howard's homecoming at the time. And so we was having like this it was a showcase and a panel situation. So one of the people on the panel, he happened to work for Def Jam. So he was like, man, just come. And he had Rhapsody with him at the time. Okay. So he was like, man, just come with me to like these different spots or whatever. We gonna promote, her album. So I ended up meeting like, like Ninth Wonder, Young Guru, like all these different people, they not knowing that I'm just like, man, I'm broke as fuck. And even after I got the place, I still didn't really have no money, but I was still just kind of moving around off of that. And then I didn't even have a plane ticket back.
So did they know? So those people, did they know anything that you were like a producer or anything, or they just saw you just there?
No, they just knew of the brand, the BeatsXBeers brand. Okay. And so we took pictures and all of that, and man, I ended up getting one of those artists or people I was waiting on. I ended up getting a payment from them, and that's how I end up getting a flight back. But just going out there on faith, and to this day, that person from the Def Jam thing, like, we still cool, to this day. But that's another one, like, if I just didn't step out on faith, like, I would have never made, made that relationship.
Yeah, but so much like being in the right place at the right time, and you never know who you're going to meet. You just got to be willing to do it, man. I was watching, I love, watching Ink Johnson too, and he was saying things like a lot of people go into things with like expectations, and he said just get out there and work. Don't be because a lot of times he said if people don't know something is guaranteed to happen for them, they won't do it. Yeah. And he was like, man, just go out there and just work, put in the work, and it's so true, man. And for you to just take those steps constantly and just not understanding, not seeing what's gonna happen, but it's still like building these relationships and brushing shoulders with the right people, man, it pays off and it helps.
Man, that's why, man, it'd be hard for me to work with a lot of people because it'd be like, man, look, you're not willing to go as far as I'm willing to go. I don't necessarily expect you to go all the way as far as I'm going to go, but, you just not willing to have that same dedication to it that I'm willing to have. And I think back to all of those times where, I'm sleeping, wherever or just doing whatever to get the job done, and a lot of people just not willing to do that, but they think they really want this entrepreneurship life, or some stuff looks cool from the outside, but they not willing to put in that work for it.
Man, I'm telling you, like people don't understand anything. Like even when they see, like when people go back and watch these interviews, they think we just traveling, just like living it up and doing this thing, which we try to have a good time when we go somewhere. But at the same time, like I don't even tell people like the process of like trying to put these like tours together, like what we're going to, and like reaching out to people, like the process that I go through. Like I just let my guys know, hey, this is where we going. Like, can you make it or not, whatever. But it's just like so much that I put into it, man. If I really told people like the stuff that I'm going through, man, like people probably wouldn't even understand like this stuff. But in the same time, you can't expect them to have the same passion as you because it's not their vision. So they don't see what you see. So nobody's gonna have the same drive, and that would be a problem if they were more passionate about it than me. That would be a problem. Exactly. But I can't expect nobody else. But for me, I'm just like, man, so dedicated, committed to the process, and just going through this stuff, man. I remember it would be times where I would just like I'm just trying to like get a start, just interviewing local entrepreneurs, man. Sometimes I'd go take my son to eat at Pizza Inn, and they would have a table with just like a bunch of different sponsors like plastered on their table. So I would take my phone, take pictures of it, try to reach out to these guys. I would take a coupon book, flip through the pages, see what kind of local sponsorships we got in there. Try to walk into those businesses and ask them would they be willing to come on and share their story or offer any type of sponsorship. Like, I would do all of those type of things just to, like, anything I could do to get a leg up. Like, I would do all of that stuff just to learn and get a foot in the door and build those relationships with those people, man. And stuff like that, man, you have to go through that process. Like, everybody won't see it, but, you know, you just still have to make those steps. I think that's it. But I want to ask you something else, though, about, like, the Beats and Beers. So is that the concept? Is it kind of, like, catered towards, like, independent artists, like, when they want to come on and perform? Like, how was that concept? Like,
I would say at first it was. Now it's kind of transformed a little bit. We got the drinks going behind the scenes. We should have had them in front of in front of the camera. But yeah, I would say it kind of transformed a little bit. So now it's like we do a variety of shows, events, and festivals, and it's all types. So it depends. It's just whatever is fitting to the occasion. So like one thing may be a showcase where we're showcasing, you know, independent artists or whatever the case is. Something else could potentially be, you know, like we just did an event where we do this yearly event back in Michigan called Beats and Barbecue, where it's a big, you know what I'm saying, barbecue is more of a festival type thing, and it's more focused on the DJs. We just did the Block Party, which is also more focused on the DJs, and we had Just Blaze.
That's big.
Yeah, Just Blaze DJing there, or wherever the case was. So it just depends on what it is, but man, most importantly, man, I curate things that I want to attend, like, and go to, and I try to think about the details of it all and have it very detailed from, it's an experience from, that experience from when you first hit the door or the entrance. Like, what is that experience like? Like, what is the rapport like with the people that's at the door? You know what I'm saying? When you come in, like, what's that, you know what I'm saying, experience? What's that feeling like? What are you going to leave with, or what are we going to leave you with? Like, are we having, like, stuff that people can take, you know what I'm saying, take with them, tangibles that people going to go home later, take pictures of, or they got the t-shirts at the event that they want to keep wearing or take a picture of? Like, I just try to think about the experience overall, because overall I want people to have a good time, and most importantly, it's about the fellowship of it all. Absolutely. I want you to leave and you to met somebody, or, you know what I'm saying, like, it to be a memorable experience, not just like, oh man, we just partied and got drunk. But no, like, we gonna have fun, we gonna have drinks, we gonna turn up, all of that, but let's not forget about the productive part of it as well. Like, I feel like that's the ultimate win, when you can go have fun and you feel like you've been productive in the same.
Exactly. Yeah. And when they see Beats and Beers, like, coming to their time, like, okay, I had a good time with them last time. They see the name, they know if they go. Yeah, bro. It's gonna have a good time. It's easy. It's easy for anybody to remember Beats and Beers. When they see it, they automatically know, you know, what it is. It can't be nobody but us. It's trademark. So it's, I mean, yeah, man. I love, you know what I'm saying, what I do. Do you remember the first event that you held and, like, how that experience went? Well, the first one was 2015. That was the one in South by? Yeah. Okay. And to be honest with you, man, I was so inexperienced at the time that it did not go as planned at all. At all. But it was the best learning experience. Yeah. It was the best. I learned so much from that. And it still took me time, even after doing a couple of more shows, to really, like, learn. I mean, I'm still learning stuff to this day. I'm always learning. But that one was like, man, I felt like it was a disaster at the time. I felt like I failed. And it was like, nah, man, just pick yourself back up and keep going. Like, you did a good thing. We dived into that. Like, I didn't know nobody in Austin. I found this venue on Craigslist and just hit up the person on Craigslist like, hey, I'm trying to have this. And they like, yeah, hadn't seen the venue, hadn't seen nothing. Like, just showed up the week of, like, hey. And when I got there, I'm like, this the venue. Like, and made the best of it. The venue, and yeah, man, I was happy to actually be able to pull it off, but I didn't realize how much of a big task it was that I was trying to pull off until, you know what I'm saying, we pulled it off. So But man, that's big though, man. Like I like that, man, because you just like you say, it's constantly like you just betting on yourself and just taking a chance over and over.
Always. But man, that's been the biggest wins for me. A lot of times when I put my fate in other people's hands, or for me, it just don't go as I needed to go, or you relying on somebody else to be passionate about something that's not necessarily their passion all the way or as much as it is yours. So I just like creating, and I don't really do produce anymore because I got so busy with this. But what I learned was I was passionate about. I'm still passionate about music overall, but I still get the same satisfaction because for me it was never about creating music necessarily. It was just about creating overall. That's the thing overall. So long as I can create, I still get the same satisfaction I feel like I was getting.
Yeah. What would you say was the event for you where you felt like, okay, now we solid. I know we're gonna be around. Like this thing is here to stay. Like, do you remember? Was there any particular event that you said was like, okay?
I would say the third year we did BeatsXBeers Festival. I felt like that, in which the third
and that was back at home or
no BeatsXBeers. It was at South by.
South by, okay.
Yeah, that was 2017 was the third one, and I felt like I looked around at that show and I was like, oh, okay. I think we had Trader Truth headline that one, and I looked around at that show and I'm like, nah, this feel different. It feel like we got something. And prior to that is when I started spreading around to other cities as well. And right after that, I would say right after that show, we started spreading around to all these other cities, and just looking at the response to it and how people responded to it, how people wanted to wear like the shirts and all of that. I'm like, no, we got something for sure.
That's super dope, man. Who would you say were like your musical like influences in the culture? Like who influenced you?
Man, Jay-Z, top to bottom. Jay-Z. Man, I just always studied like the business moves. I always admire like the braveness, the bold like business moves. And I mean another person, I guess, like I don't care what people say about him, Kanye. I mean there's some genius in it.
He is one of the best.
Yeah, it's gonna be some stuff we don't agree with.
Like even the haircut, I just saw him post, but it smart.
Yeah,
smart.
Exactly. So it's like, for me, I can look past, you know what I'm saying, all the surface, like,
and it all is working for
the
him.
surface, whatever, and be like, hey, it's some genius in here somewhere. It like, is. Obviously, like, y'all can say what y'all want, but somebody is out buying these shoes. Somebody is out, you know what I'm saying, getting this music or whatever. Like, somebody is doing it, like, and if y'all felt that much way about him, then the sales wouldn't be there.
Exactly.
So is there some genius in what he's doing? So I mean, I look at all of that, like the branding of it, like I don't know. Yeah, so I would probably say those two probably are super huge.
We had in the recent interview, we said I said Kanye is probably the most polarizing artist in hip hop, definitely today. But one of the most polarizing ever. Like just the way when he's one of the people when he speaks, whether you agree or disagree with him, you take the time to listen to him, and he knows how to get in the headlines. He knows how to get people attention, and people, like you said, people might feel a certain way about him, but they still go out and buy his stuff.
It's like, bro, the best. I mean, the best to do it gonna make you feel something, whether it's make you feel good or bad. Now it would be bad if you didn't feel nothing. You're just like, all right, next. But even the people who feel bad about it, they have an opinion on it. Like they have to voice their opinion. You know what I'm saying, on it. So he is working, man. Doing what he doing. And I mean, on another note, just as a creative, just overall, like I feel like I identify with some of his frustrations. Like I can understand why he might be frustrated at sometimes. I mean, I don't know. I get it.
I want to ask you, talking about Jay-Z being a businessman, Kanye is a businessman as well. When you were doing these deals and whether it was from producing stuff for a creator or currency, or even when I saw you had some placements with ESPN or BET, and even with BeatsXBeers, when you were first doing it, did you understand like the business side of it, or were you kind of struggling with it, and did you need to try to get help with it? Like, how were you when it came to like the actual business part?
Yeah, I didn't understand the business side of it, man. I just wanted to create, and I was learning as I go. I'm a very hands-on learner, so I got to jump in and just kind of do my thing and then figure it out along the way. That's gonna be the best way for me to learn. So no, I didn't necessarily understand, what I'm saying, all the business. And even when it comes to like marketing and stuff like that, I didn't understand a lot of this stuff. It was just something that I just dived into and figured it out to where I was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of good at this, or whatever the case was. But man, for the most part, no, I didn't know at that time, especially.
With things taking off the way that they are, are you having people buy more into like the vision and the concept of what you're doing, and now that they want to tag along and help you build your vision? Like, how is it now when you see how things are?
Man, it gets weird. It gets very, very weird at times. But yeah, there are, a lot more now that I have an understanding of, like, we get a lot more like sponsors and stuff like that. There's definitely people that reach out that that want to help, but all money or all opportunities may not be, good ones, or whatever the case is. But I'm very protective of the brand, first and foremost. Like, I don't want to accept anything, even if somebody came to me with a check right now and I'm like, man, this check looks so tempting.
You don't want to compromise
yourself. But I understand that, it may be beneficial right now, but in the long run, this could hurt the whole overall thing. This could, just mess up a bigger check. So yeah, there are a lot more people that reach out, but definitely a lot more things to weed through, as well, or whatever.
Just a few more questions, we'll get ready to wrap it up. What would you say the biggest lesson that you've learned since you became an entrepreneur? Man,
patience. Like, man, you got to be patient. For real. I was just talking to the same best friend that I brought up that I started music with. I was just talking to him, I think that was last night, and we was texting back and forth. And man, it's patience. It's learning how to, be able to stick to the vision, see the vision, even when, like we talked about, you had them times when it's down or ain't nothing working out. I had some stuff that recently didn't work out. I was so passionate about it, and it could still work out at a later date, but I got to be patient enough to understand that, okay, maybe you're not ready for this at this particular time, but it could come back around.
Right.
But the best things that I've had happen to me are the things that I was the most patient with. They took a lot of time, but when it came, it came. So patience is one of the things, like, I feel like for any entrepreneur, man, you got to learn that. You got to learn that quick and fast, or you not gonna be an entrepreneur.
Most definitely. And as far as adjustment, what would you say was like kind of like I know you spoke about patience. Like, what is like one of the adjustments that you had to, like, biggest adjustments that you've had to make?
Man, probably understanding that being an entrepreneur, like I was talking about, like your money, you have to understand that, well, you ain't getting no weekly check or no other every other week check. So when you got to budget a little bit different. You got to budget yours out a little bit different. And I'm still learning sometimes, like, hey, you got to hold back on that, because what if, you got all this stuff lined up, but what if this doesn't, happen, or somebody pulls out, or whatever the case is. So that was probably an adjustment, learning how to manage. And I'm still getting better at that every day. That's still a work in progress, and learning.
I would imagine, with adjustments like COVID probably affected a lot of things too.
Yeah, man, when COVID hit, I spent probably like the first 2 weeks of the shutdown being depressed, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm finna do. But you know what I'm saying, we made it through, man, and by the blessings of God, I mean we had all types of stuff, come through, and where I could make it comfortable. It gave me more time to just kind of plan and do some other stuff, man. For real, for real.
I'm just curious to know, I know you took a chance and you went to New York, stayed in New York, moved to LA.
Yep.
Now you're out here in Vegas. Like, do you feel like it was necessary for you to like get away from home in order to make it, or how do you look at your situation?
I do. I feel like it was necessary for me to experience some different things, just probably culturally, open my mind up a little bit. I always say like I got my hustle from Flint, but I feel like I got my style from like LA. Like it was a different, like going to like events in LA and just seeing how stuff was done there, curating those different experiences. Yeah, I feel like all of that kind of made me, who I am. And if I didn't go to those places and experience those different things, like I wouldn't necessarily, I don't feel like I would be the same or have the same ideas. But sometimes it's crucial to just see what's possible, because sometimes around you, like I said, Flint wasn't a place where a lot of stuff happened. So by me going to these places in New York or LA, I'm walking outside in LA, like we ain't staying in the best neighborhood, but down there anywhere you walk out in LA, you can see a Lamborghini come down the street at any moment. So seeing this stuff and understanding that it's possible,
The
and
exposure.
it's people around you that's actually doing it, and people will talk about, man, LA is so expensive, and granted it is, but for me, it was like I'm here, and I'm looking at all these people around me that's living very comfortably. So somebody didn't figure something out, because they ain't out here complaining like we talking about. So somebody didn't figure something out, but that lets me know that it's possible. Like, and it's very doable. And if you just step out on faith, a lot of times, like you'll figure it out that it's very doable. But I had to leave where I was to kind of see a lot of that.
Just having that exposure,
firsthand,
will make a difference, man. I remember when I was telling you about Ben, man. He was saying, man, like when you grow up in a certain environment or something, and that's all. And that's all that's around you. That's all you're gonna see. And he made the point about, you say you hanging with 4 or 5 of your friends, and everybody's just working a job, and everybody talking about, man, we got to go get this OT so we can have a big check. He's like, if that's all that's around you, that's all you see, that's all that you're gonna think about. Like that's all that it is too. Like it's like just about getting that exposure and being around the right things. I remember one thing that I did. I said before was when I was writing my book and getting ready to put it out. What I would do was, sometimes you go to work, and sometimes you get home, you get in your comfort zone again, you get lazy, you want to take a nap, you want to eat and just chill at home. So what I would do in that time was like put myself in the right environment. I would go to the library sometimes, or I would go to Barnes and Noble. And I'm just being around these people that are doing something productive, whether they're reading a book or they're typing a paper or something like that. Just being in that environment made me feel like, man, I don't need to be in here slouching around. Let me stay on what I'm doing. So I would try to do those things like that for my mind and just put me in those right environments that kind of helped me push through with getting my book done. Because I did it when I was working 2 jobs, and I finally quit one of them, went home and started writing. But when I still put myself in just certain things like that, just put myself in those kind of positions to be around people who were doing certain things. Like you said, when you were out in California, you're saying how this stuff is expensive, but eventually you're gonna figure it out like everybody else does.
Eventually you're gonna adjust and figure it out. And that's my whole mindset of like, man, I'm not finna sit back and wait and be all complaining, talking about what's expensive, or I gotta wait to get this in order. Like, man, I'm finna move, and I'm finna move right now, and I'll figure it out, as we go. And a lot of times, as you take those steps, and that's all that's needed, man. Gotta come through with the rest for you.
Every time,
you know what I'm saying? Or somehow, some way to get figured out. He'll send somebody your way unexpectedly, man. You just don't know. And for me, it's hard for me to explain that to a lot of people, especially if they're not entrepreneurs, because they don't necessarily, they don't get that. They don't get why you was passionate about things, how you are, or why you see things the way that you see them. But man, if you didn't experience some of this stuff and you didn't seen God come through in some mysterious times when you ain't have no way, then you'll, you know what I'm saying, you'll know, man. And man, faith, man.
We went to California. We went to Oakland, California, back in August, and that was I wrote down like I was telling about when I believe in just writing things down. I wrote down California, and didn't know what part of California we was going to, but I saw this lady had an article online, and her name is Miss Judy Townsend. She owns Mannequin Madness, and didn't know how we were gonna get out there, any of that stuff. Reached out to her, told her I seen the article online. Would she be interested in sharing her story? She hit me back maybe like 15, 20 minutes later. She said, hey, I would love to come on and share your story. Have you ever been to the Bay Area? She gave her my number, exchanged email, gave her my number. She called me. Didn't know, the lady didn't know anything about me. I sent her a link to my website. She seen all my stuff. She said, I love what you're doing. She said, I just want to try. She's like, how do you pay for this stuff? I said, honestly, we got a couple local sponsors helping us, and we put up our own money. She said, I'll tell you what, if you guys want to come out here, you can stay in my Airbnb. You don't have to worry about paying anything except for the cleanup fee. The cleanup fee was $145. So we got, of course, we had to pay for our own flight, but we had somewhere to stay for $145. Yeah. You can't beat that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was like those things like that, man, just reaching out, and you don't know what people are going to do for you, how they going to help you. And she gave us somewhere to stay, and she was telling us she had to kind of get away from home too, and she preached to us. She was like, sometimes you just have to be in fertile soil to grow. Just being away from home, you know, she said when she was born and raised, she was born in Tennessee. When she moved from Tennessee to L.A. when she was when she was 3 years old, her family moved to L.A. And then as she got older, she moved down to Oakland, California, by herself. But she was saying, you know, sometimes if she would have stayed in her environment, those things probably would not have panned out for her, because she has a mannequin business that's like a multi-million-dollar mannequin business. They're just selling mannequins, renting mannequins. That if spaces that she has, rent them out, you can use that for any type of event that you want to. She found different ways to be creative and turn it into multiple streams of income. But she was saying she had to get out of her environment, get out of her comfort zone, and things worked out for her. And she would look around and see other guys, other men that were entrepreneurs. They failed at business. They would just look at it as a lesson learned and just do something else different. But she always said sometimes you have to get out of those comfort zones in order to make it at times.
Yeah, I agree, man, 100%.
I think I had a couple more questions, then we'll get ready to wrap it up. But I also wanted to ask you about the music business. You know, as far as like, you know, you start out kind of like as for indie artists to a certain degree. Knowing what you know about music and everything, what would you say for advice for guys that are like, or men or women who are in the music, like knowing what you know, like, do you think it's best for them nowadays to kind of like stay that indie route, sign deals? I know everybody's situation is going to be different, and I see a lot of artists now that have already made it. Now they look back and say, you know, they would be independent, but at the time, you know, you don't have those resources or whatever. You're just trying to get on.
Yeah,
so knowing what you know, what would you say, like, as far as like the independent plus against a major?
Man, I think like you said, it's gonna depend on the artist, of course, and I think everybody's situation is different, and it depends on what your end goal is too, as well. What you want to do, because they both have their, you know, benefits, obviously. In the perfect world, the perfect thing would be independent, right? Build up that independent. Then once you got that built up so far, then you can go into the labels with more leverage, because it's like, I don't gotta accept anything because I already got this going. I already got this going over here. So that would be the perfect scenario. So it just kind of like, man, you just gotta know what your goals are. I wouldn't say accept a major deal too early, because you're probably gonna get. It
always seems like the first deal they get jerked for some reason.
Yeah,
all the time.
I mean, it's because you don't got no leverage in the game, really. Like, you don't got no stake in the game, and so the label just putting up, you know what I'm saying, all their money or whatever the case is. You ain't got nothing that you know established on your own. So that's you know, that's what it is. So I would say, establish yourself first, and to figure out if you want to stay that indie route, if it's worth it to stay that indie route, or you want the machine behind you to prepare you to that next level.
I look at it now, I feel like social media kind of helped a whole lot with artists today.
No, it helped 1,000%, 1,000% for sure. It helped.
Yeah, because I was telling you before we started the interview about the story, like behind the scenes, like Lil Yachty, how he got on. His dad was sharing that story, and SoundCloud was that outlet that really was when he posted his record on it, and that was the platform that really like helped him take off. Yeah. Plus, his dad had that relationship with Coach K from QC, tied that into that song taking off, and put two and two together, and then everything just took off for him. But yeah, I was like, social media now was like that. To me, I was like, I'm not a music artist, and like I don't know everything about the business or anything like that. I don't pretend to act like I do, but it's like for me, I was like, man, the way social media is now, like man, you can find an artist with a click of a button, and a lot of them have huge followings online already. So it's like, do you really need it? Or I mean, like you say, it's just kind of like going back to like I guess their situation, but a lot of times for me, when I look at it, like that first deal, like they artists always end up getting jumped.
Yep, it happens.
Just want to ask you also about, I saw you do a lot of things like in your community. I say, of course, like we spoke about, Flint, the water situation years ago. What does it feel like for you to be in a position now where you're able to like give back and do things for your community?
Man, it's one of the best feelings in the world. Sometimes I feel a little bit overwhelmed by in terms of when the response to, a lot of things. I'm very, very, very blessed to have my city super supportive of anything I do. Like they be waiting, for something else or whatever the case is. But it feels good to be able to, because like I said, like a lot of people know Flint for like the water, especially now, or some other negative aspect of it, whether it be crime, whatever. So it feels good to be able to shine the positive light, be like the complete opposite of that, give the city another identity or another face that people can know it for. And I'm seeing whenever we posting like our pictures, recap videos, whatever, people looking like, man, I need to come there. Like it look like it's lit, like completely. So I mean, those types of responses, because man, my overall goal is to always attract outsiders, there or whatever the case is, expose, other people there to, outside people or something, to change the whole thing.
Do you prefer to kind of like hide behind your brand and let it speak for itself? Because I remember I saw a video. I think you were going through a drive-through at Halo Burger, and they have a BeatsXBeers burger or something now. And it was like you didn't even tell them that you were like, hey, I'm the owner of BeatsXBeers. You just kind of just went through that.
Yeah, man.
Or you kind of stay behind the scenes?
I just let the brand speak for itself. Like I feel like once people know the brand, like they'll eventually know, the person behind it, which a lot of times a lot of people do know, what's what. But I personally prefer that people, know the brand before they know me. And in that case, like the BeatsXBeers burger, like I'm just so not that person like that, so like just gotta be out here like that or whatever. So when I went through the drive through that particular time, like no, I don't want to, do the whole flex like I'm this person. Like I don't even want you to feel that pressure or whatever the case is, or I just don't even have to be like that person. Like you'll know eventually, or it might be later on when they're like, oh, that was him, and put two and two together. But I just don't feel like I have to be out here like that. I'm just, just super humble about it. Like I don't have to do all that.
That's got to be a good feeling though, to have something that back at home, and to have a sandwich named after your brand.
Man, and I just like to let the work speak for itself, because a lot of people out here doing a lot of talking and ain't doing no work for real.
That's a fact.
But when the work is there, I mean the proof is there. Like I don't gotta do too much, speaking for it. It's easy to find. It's not hard to find at all. So once the work is there and the work is, solid, people want to know who's behind it.
Yeah.
So.
How did that situation come about? Was it something where they were seeing your work and the things you were doing for the community, and they reached out and said we wanted to partner up?
Man, so initially we were doing a festival. So a lot of people that don't know, Halo Burger is a staple chain restaurant that's in like the Flint and Genesee County area or whatever.
I was gonna say because we definitely don't have one where we are.
Yeah. It's in that area, and it's like the second oldest chain restaurant ever or something. But anyway, so it's very legendary to the area. Like everybody know Halo Burger there. But we were doing a festival and we were calling it BeatsXBeers. Like it was gonna be a collaboration festival. This was before we got to the whole burger idea or whatever. And it was something that I was kind of pitching to them or whatever. But it didn't happen because of COVID. So during that time, it's kind of like when we was figuring out other stuff that we could do in collaboration. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of when the BeatsXBeers burger came into place. And I mean, it's like, for me, like that's like top 5 or maybe at the top of accomplishments when you can see them coupons and all that from fast food places come in the mail. And it's like, it's clear, like on there, it's just big BeatsXBeers burger. Like that's like we've been seeing them since forever. Them coupons and all that stuff come in the mail from all these different fast food places and all of that. So to be able to see that, man, that was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's super dope, man. My final 2 questions before we get ready to wrap it up. If you had to lay out a blueprint for a business, any type of business that you wanted to do, what would your blueprint for business be?
In terms of
like you just want to start a business in general, and people watching, like how would you start a business? Any kind, just like what kind of tools or what would you tell people they need for a blueprint of like starting a business?
Man, I would say figure out obviously what the name of that business is, and I feel like, man, for me, I'm such a branding and marketing person, right? Within that name, it should kind of people should be able to read your name and kind of figure out somewhat of what the business is, even if they don't know all. It's just good. It's just good branding. Figure out. Do everything with a purpose as well. So don't just come with something like, oh, this look like it's gonna sell. Like, I mean, of course you want a product that's gonna sell, but if you have more of a purpose behind it, you're more likely to be, passionate about it. I mean, there's plenty of other things you can tie to it when there's a purpose, behind it. Of course, get a good logo is important. Man, I don't know, man. So many different things. Yeah. So many different elements, like so many different things. Yeah, so many different steps, going into starting a business. But man, overall, man, just make sure you're doing everything with a purpose behind it. Make sure everything is purposely driven.
Absolutely. And then my final question was the one that I ask everybody. Like, well, this is a Cross the Line podcast self-investment tour. So what does self-investment mean to you?
Man, all in on yourself. Bet on yourself. Yeah, man. Just having that confidence in yourself, not being afraid to believe in you, not being afraid to just count on you. You know what I'm saying? But as a matter of fact, I just want to say this to everybody anyway, man. Believe in your ideas, because a lot of people are gonna try to sway you away from that, sway you away from your original thoughts. People trying to tell you stuff they ain't never did nothing that's even remotely close to what you're doing. Or, you know what I'm saying, people not in your minds. People don't know what's going on in your mind. Nobody knows that but you. So just stay true to your ideas and believe in them.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said there's a perfect way to wrap up this interview, because, man, a lot of times so many people, they're not going to see it, and you can get so caught up and consumed with the real world and just working to pay bills that you put your dreams on hold. You'll say, man, I'm gonna do this later on. Or I'm gonna wait till I pay this off or pay that off, or the kids get a little bit older. But you have to understand, nothing is guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to be here tomorrow, so why keep putting off your dreams and your visions of what you want to do? You gotta go figure out a way to make it happen, because it's one of the things I've learned. It's never gonna be a perfect time, ever. You just gotta be willing to
I try to
do it.
tell so many people this all the time. The time is never perfect. You never gonna have all the ducks in a row.
Yeah.
It's impossible. And the people who wait on the perfect time actually never ever get started.
Never get started.
Yeah, because it's no such thing as the perfect time.
Yep. I can go on and on about that, man. I remember the time the first tour. I'm gonna say this, and then we'll get ready to wrap it up. The first tour when we did last year, when we were getting ready to fly to Jacksonville, Florida, man, I had so many issues with my car, man. It was running hot, and just everything was just going wrong with it, man. And I was like, dang, man, am I really gonna go on tour now, or I just need to go ahead and fix my car? But I kept telling myself, man, what am I gonna keep doing this? Keep making excuses and not trying to do what I want to do, or what? Are we gonna really do it? So I was like, you know what, man, take care of the car, everything will work out, man. And I said, you know what, we're gonna hit the road. And we flew first. That was my first time ever getting on a plane. I was 28 years old, hopping on a plane to Jacksonville, Florida, and one of the best things I ever did in my life, man. I took a chance and flew down there, met some great people, man. We had a good time. But had I kept letting circumstances like that, with like a car issue, or you gotta pay bills, kids need something, you get so caught up in that stuff, man, that you'll just forget. You're like, I want to focus on what I want to do. And then as you look back, man, time passes by months and years, and then you look back like, man, I wish I would have had the chance to, do what I really wanted to do, man. But like you say, you just got to be all in, bet on yourself, and just don't wait till the perfect time, because it's not coming at all. But Brandon, I want to thank you again for your time, man. I appreciate it. This was a great interview. Before we get out of here, can you tell everybody how to find you online on social media?
You can find me personally at BQuarterBeats. That's BQuarterBeats. You can find that on everything: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. And the brand BeatsXBeers, BeatsXBeers on Facebook, Instagram, BeatsXBeers.com. And yeah, it's everything. Yeah.
And I got guys I know they're probably gonna want me to ask this as well. The music artists, I saw you were doing something. You doing applications for like the South by Southwest.
Yeah, we got the submissions open now.
Yeah, so is that for artists to submit?
Yeah. Any artist from anywhere. Yep.
Okay. So, guys, anybody that's watching this, male, female, your artist, you think about going to South by Southwest, make sure you enter your submissions. I definitely want to try to get out there, man. I really wasn't aware of what South by Southwest was until about a few years ago when I first did this. And I had a friend that was telling me he went out there. He's a music artist, Troop Dizzle. Shout out to Troop. And he was the one who kind of told me about South by Southwest. I really didn't know what it was, but man, I would love to, I'm like to go out there and just see it, be around.
Man, it's a good time.
Yeah. So I definitely will try to make my way out there. But thank you again, Brandon. And hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode of the Cross the Line Podcast. So until next time, keep chasing your dreams. This is Cross the Line Podcast, Self-Investment Tour. Thank you for listening.
It's Brandon Quarter of BeatsXBeers, and you are now tuned in to Cross the Line Podcast.